The following is an Operation Podcast production.
I love my mother now. We have a very healthy and healed/healing ongoing relationship, but it was not so healthy and healing growing up. I left with a prescription for steroids and $300 out of my pocket. And I just felt so violated in a way. I felt kind of neglected because I still didn't understand what was going on with me. And so that was the catalyst for my naturopathic journey. I grew up with this shit. This shit is normal. This is what people do in relationships, right?
Are you ready for a wild ride? I'm Alexis and I invite you to strap in because this is more than a podcast. This is Look at Me Now.
Hey, y'all. We are back with another episode of Look at Me Now. And I just feel blessed with my guests. I really do. Today I'm here with Dr. Trish Ferrer, and she is a naturopathic doctor. She is so multidisciplinary because she is a trauma specialist. She's a space holder. She obviously is a naturopath. I say Dr. Trish, she's a naturopathic doctor. And she is pure magic in a body. And I just am so excited that you're here. Thank you for being here. Oh my God. I was not expecting you to say that. Everyone, just for full disclosure, we were like, how do we introduce you? Because you do so many things. Yes, beautiful intro. It's always a struggle. I know as a multidisciplinary person, and having had so many multidisciplinary people on that show, that it's tricky. It's hard to narrow yourself to one singular thing because there are so many things that one can do. One very multifaceted and multidimensional, multi-passionate type people, type of women. I cannot be confined to a single label. Well, I know you do not know what aisle I'm living at the grocery store. I just want all of it. Give me the snacks, the additionals, and what I actually need as well. All of the things. Do not deprive me. Yes. But I'm all that I am. Well, I'm so excited. I'm so excited that you're here. And I want to really give the audience the best opportunity to know you and to know the richness of you and what brought you to be the amazing Dr. Trish that you are now, helping all the people that you're helping. And as you know, the way that we do that on this podcast is by sort of going through the framework of a timeline of you. So let's start by looking back. And I would love you to share with the audience, so I know that you were not born in the United States. Why don't we start there? Why don't we start with sort of the origin story of, the little seed that, before it was even watered. Okay, tell us about little Trish. I love an origin story. We talked about this before. I love an origin story because I feel like we don't have opportunities to really talk about an origin story. We only see results and people as they are in front of us. But no one is ever really curious about how they got there. And then people end up feeling like shit that they're not this person, etc. So I love getting the opportunity to talk about an origin story. I will say I'm a little bit nervous to talk about my story because I don't want to sound self-inflated, but I will try to make it as succinct as possible. So yes, I was not born here. Pause. Okay. It paused. Oh my gosh. They died in bare feet. Okay. It's always because I'm not used to talking about myself. I'm so used to encouraging my clients or my people. But that right there is such a beautiful opportunity. Yes. To go, okay, conditioning, of not being the center of attention, not wanting to see me going, or self-inflated, where I just value your story and I want to hear every nuance of it. I don't want to hear anything succinctly or pared down or shrunken. I want the full magnificence of your story. So we are going full blast. Let go. Hide nothing, right? I'm definitely out. Okay. God, where do I begin? Okay, so you're right. I was not born in this country. So I think if we were trying to conceptualize how I came to be, so my makers, my caretakers, my parents, my birth people, Renee and Caroline. Their names are Renee and Caroline, and I'm Filipino Chinese. So I'm a mixed Asian race, and I'm also a first generation immigrant. So we all moved here when I was 13, but I was born in the Philippines during the Gulf War and then grew up in the Middle East. And so there's this tiny little island called Bahrain. Grew up there for 13 years, moved to the Midwest, and then spent high school there, and then came to the West Coast for college, medical school, and here I am today. So that's kind of like the origins in terms of like where I come from, kind of like this otherworldly quality of like being in a bunch of different places. Growing up in the States was difficult, but I didn't know it at the time because we're such experts at like compartmentalizing our experiences based on what we have to like adapt and like survive to on what's in front of us. Sure. And so I did not realize that. I mean, like the sense of belonging and having to like adapt and assimilate to a lot of things that were very Eurocentric, especially in the Midwest when there's not that much diversity, was really difficult. And so I kind of found myself, you know, maybe like hiding certain parts of me or being ashamed of being Asian or being ashamed of being mixed or being ashamed of being an immigrant, you know, kind of like stopped all of those things just so that I could like belong and essentially like survive inside a community. Assimilate, sure. Assimilate and adapt, right? And we've all done that. Women are experts at adaptation. And so we've all had to do that. And for those of you who can't see me, I'm completely raising my hand. I should raise 100%. It doesn't matter what situation you're in. I mean, historically, women are experts 1000% adapting at any situation because we've had to in order to survive. That's right. And our brains are actually from some of the science out there that our brains are actually even wired to be more attuned 100% everything that we need sensory wise to assimilate. So like we actually read the nuance in facial expressions, our tones of voice even more acutely than, you know, maybe our male counterparts do. Yeah, our brains are actually wired for that, for safety. Yeah, I love that so much. I was going to say that there's been really incredible like neurobiological studies about how the way that the electrical currents happen in the brain for women is that they actually go from the front of the cortex to the back, which is why women are just so much more attuned, highly attuned to their environments, to their emotions. When it comes to their memory bank, they can kind of like pick and choose things, and they're very practical about how things can go. And so they've already come up with all the results before all those things even happen. 1000%. I told you about it too. When you're birth survival, when you're built not only to survive, to nurture and create and keep alive other. Yes, 100%. Yes, evolution. Gosh, it's wild. It's what a concept. It's one a concept. Oh, I keep going about yours. Okay, I digress. So yeah, we digress from that for a moment. That was a nice little sidebar tangent, but yeah, there was just a lot of like adaptation and assimilation growing up to in a mixed Asian household. When it comes to traditional Asian cultures, there's a very unique way of the culture disciplining their children. And so, you know, I love my mother now. We have a very healthy and like healed/healing ongoing relationship, but it was not so healthy and healing growing up. It was very abusive in a lot of ways. So a lot of that kind of carried on to my teenage years where I was very rebellious, you know, wanting to kind of exert my power and my voice and kind of, I guess, like exorcise all of the abuse that I was feeling out. I mean, when you're a teenager, you know, you are learning so much about yourself, and even from like the physiological standpoint of like developing your hormones and like all of your hormones rising and your brain being developed, there's so much happening. And so very rebellious stage, and you're self-identifying at that time 100% else, and you're learning how to relate to totally. And you come from, I mean, we all harbor shame from a variety of experiences, but specifically when abuse is involved and how you've cultivated and internalized a lot of shame, rebellion is actually the flip of shame. Yeah, right? So it's like, don't steal the cookie from the cookie jar. Yeah, slap the hand away. Don't steal the cookie from the cookie jar. Slap the hand away. Yeah, eventually you're going to be like, watch me take this. Yes, which is why I love like conscious parenting so much, because I feel like parents who are very conscious about these things, they just discover ways to have that balance between, learning how to set boundaries with your children, but also trying to teach them good morals and values, instead of being something so extreme, which is something that is hard. Parenting is, I feel like, and obviously every human being is doing their best, right? And as parents, that it sort of like doubles, triples down on I'm doing my best. And some people's best is, oh boy, well, yeah, I'd go down that rabbit hole. We won't, but yeah, you certainly experienced it in your own way. But yeah, I know when I had my children, my first call was to my parents and saying, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. Yeah, heart's intuitive. What goes into it? What's required of you? Like, it makes sense to me now. Yeah. Some of the choices that you've made. I'm not saying that I love them or that they were the best choices, or that I can completely understand and like stamp of approval them. Yeah, but by golly, I get how hard this is, and that doing your best sometimes doesn't feel like what I expected my best to look like. Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that, because I feel like me now in my 30s, much more healed from my childhood and healing my teenage self, I can recognize that in my mom as the way that she was raising me or how she disciplined me. However, I feel like it is a good conversation to have in terms of like how to not conflate like love and abuse. Correct. Together. It does not forgive it. It does not forgive it. I don't cylinder what I said. Full agreement. Yeah. And so, yeah, not to conflate like love and abuse together. It doesn't make it okay. But yeah, there was a lot of that happening. So the rebellion was going on, me trying to exert my power. But in reality, looking back now, that was just a way for me to try and receive a lot of affection. Can you tell me a little bit about your rebellion? Because I could tell you about mine. I did drugs. Oh yeah, I was shoplifting. I was making fake IDs. I got arrested in high school. Okay, now yeah, I mean this is real. So yeah, I mean let's get on to that. Okay, so I was definitely there. I feel like I was in my party girl era for like 15 years. Yeah, literally. I know all the drinks. All kinds of drugs. I've never gotten arrested, though, I will say. I've been stopped by the cops, but never gotten arrested. Ooh, not at that level. You're more talented than me. What happened? Away with your rebellion. Yeah, what happened? I mean, seriously, the story is, yeah, at that time, I was really into marijuana, and experimenting with other things as well. Yeah. And I would love to like hush hush, now everybody does it. Oh no, just totally hush hush. Yeah. But I was so in love with the way that I felt when I was high, because I was such an anxious and depressed teenager. Yeah. That it just alleviated all of that for me. And it made me social, and it made me feel good. And it just opened up access to a part of me that I didn't feel access to if I wasn't high. So I was getting high like 10 times a day. I mean, it is wild. Yeah. And then I was also just in a group of friends where we started selling drugs to other friends. And it really was like its own little worlds, like you might see on like a television show. Yeah, HBO. Yeah. And one thing leads to another. Like they say, it's a gateway drug, right? So then you start trying other things, and then you're already doing something illegal. So why not do more illegal things? Yeah. In your rebellion, why see how far you could push the envelope. Yeah. So, then it was, okay, now I'm shoplifting. Oh, now we're making fake IDs, and I was an entrepreneur even back then. Yeah, selling drugs and selling fake IDs and stealing clothes and repurposing them and all kinds of stuff. But it came back to bite me. I was in my senior year of high school, And it was the day before, or the day that Christmas break was going to happen, or like a winter break was going to happen. And we had made Jell-O shots, and we brought them into the cafeteria in the high school, thinking we're so smart. It's just we'll never get caught. And believe it or not, we actually didn't get caught for the Jell-O shots. But what happened was I went up to my car to get something, and the school police officer, you know how the school has their police officers, the police officer came over to me because obviously I had been a suspicious person. But the while you're on the list, see the badge outlet. You know, you're not really supposed to be out here. So I'm going to use this opportunity to search your vehicle. And when he did, there was, you know, drugs, paraphernalia, and I remember him looking down at the floor of my car and going, "Oh, are you trying to grow a garden in here?" Because I had all these marijuana seeds on the bottom of my car. It was quite the situation. Can you imagine my parents getting that call? Your daughter's at the police station. You're going to have to come down for her to be interviewed because she's a minor. It was really something. It's so quite this. I just resonate with like rebellion being in full throttle.
Yes, yeah, at that age. I love that you shared that story about the weed and like it making you feel really free, because I felt that way when alcohol, which is kind of ironic and funny because alcohol has never tasted good to me. It never sits well because I have an allergy. You know, I have like the Asian glow type situation, like really badly. I don't have the enzyme to like metabolically like digest alcohol. So it's never necessarily felt good going down. But I remember the feeling of being so free mentally from my shit. And I just felt like I was a more vibrant person. Like I was more like exuberant, and like there was almost like something about me that felt interesting and like something that I almost like, you know, I was like that bitch. Like, you know, I was like that girl. I had a few drinks, like, you know, wild, funny, making everything. Yes. And then when the drinks were done, same experience, just really anxious, more quiet. Like I'm an introvert through and through. And so I've always been a little bit more quiet unless like I'm engaged in some way. And like relatively like grounded type of person. But anyway, and so
did it come back to bite you? Like, did you have hangovers? Was there ever a point in time where the drinking like got to a point where you're like, oh, this actually isn't even enjoyable anymore? The payoff's still there.
I feel like it ended up magnetizing the worst and traumatic relationship of my life, an adult relationship.
There we go.
Yeah. So after high school, moved out here to the West Coast to go to college, and I met this person that I was in a relationship with. Long story short, we were together for 10 years. There was a lot of like substance dependence that was happening in there. There was a lot going on with him substance-wise as well. And there was just so much like neglect. And in that relationship, while it was very tumultuous, like there was so much anger, so much conflict, arguing, you know, throwing things, breaking things. You know, I feel like all the unresolved anger that I was carrying from my abuse and my childhood and my teenage years and all of that rebellion just came out on the table. And it was the same with him. But we had normalized that so much in our relationship, which is why we were together for 10 years.
Sure.
You know, it was like, oh, that's a thing. Like we just fight, we make up, and we're in a relationship. 3 years, 5 years. At this point, we've been together for 7 years. So like, let's keep it going. Like, we're not going to break up at this point. It's just like a thing that you accept and like you do. And, you know, it's part of the socializing where you go out and you party and you do drugs and you go to raves and music festivals. And it's a weekend where you binge and you come back. It was like a thing that was happening for me.
What made him familiar to you? I mean, we know about attachment theory, right?
Yeah.
Like there was something familiar that had you magnetized to want to partner with, even if it's not desirable, it's familiar, we will magnetize to it.
Yeah.
So what about him was magnetizing to you in terms of your frameworks around relationships?
You know, when I met him, something that I loved about him was that he was really good with people. Like he was that person where you could put him in any given situation, and he would like schmooze everyone. He was very good at being like a charmer to people. But most of the time, he was only doing that when he was having drinks, right? And then when he wasn't having drinks, he was just always at a lull. There was something like depressive about him, always a little bit angry. I think the chaos of that, and even like not receiving the affection that I maybe wanted or desired, or being treated a certain way, was 100% similar to how I grew up with a mom who was abusive. Sure, but did not obviously have that intelligence or a capacity or consciousness at times, right? Like, I grew up with this shit. This shit is normal. This is what people do in relationships, right? Plus, my mom and dad, also very unique marriage to not necessarily a marriage of love, but a marriage of duty, as per like a lot of Asian cultures and what's normalized in our society. And so it's like, I see that growing up, and I see it in my relationship. Like, this is what love is. What is this, right? This is what love, connection, intimacy is, right? Yeah, big deal. Yeah. And then I think I started naturopathic school, and, you know, I was meeting people of my kind, you know, people who were really open and warm and sincere, like being in places where people were willing to embrace you and have like, and like invite you into their own life, was something that I had wanted, needed, desired, but never got. And so I think when I started like going into environments like that with people who are like that, I became more empowered. How did that shift happen? So how did you go, what on the story? Yeah, it's like, talk us through that, right? Like, how did you even arrive at the person who was like, oh, I'm going to totally diverge here. Yeah, I go to naturopathic school. Yes. Med school was always a thing. I'll say conventional Western medical school was always a thing. I knew that I wanted to go to medical school. I knew that I wanted to be in this profession. I just didn't necessarily know what to do, where to go, etc. And again, with my level of consciousness at that time, like, it was only Western medical school. But hindsight 2020, there were so many things in my life that were very holistic and naturopathic. Like, I am the girl in the family. I was just like that girl, the nature baby, you know, the girl who was always interested in like things that are more alternative, maybe things that are more gentle, things that are more ancestral compared to everyone else in my family. And so that's interesting. And to clarify, was there an expectation from your family for you to go to medical school? Yeah. Okay. Okay, great. It wasn't like, I want to be a doctor. It was more of a, you're going to be a doctor. Correct. Yeah, that was the way to go, because, you know, being a doctor, having that job equals X amount of money coming in equals stability and security. And stability and security is like essential within the Asian culture and within like the Asian family culture, I'll say, right? So it's like, who cares about your passions? Nobody gives a fuck about your dreams and your passions. Like, what are dreams and passions, right? No, you do the thing that is going to create stability and security for you and your future and your family. Roger that. Yeah, right? But like, you gotta sacrifice the passion. Clear. I just want to make sure that I'm like really hearing, and this is the story. I'm way too early it. Okay. I love the clarifications. Please keep that coming, because I'm just like time jumping here. Let's go. I love it. We could time jump, maybe place. It's quantum leap. Yes, I love the quantum leaping. Okay, so we are in college at this point. I'm still in that relationship where there was like a lot of substance dependence happening. And college times, I loved college times because, you know, there was like a lot of experimentation in terms of like what I found fun, what was enjoyable for me, what I didn't like, etc. There was like that discovery happening. However, mentally and emotionally, in the trash. Just in the trash, because the pressure, all of the expectations of who you think you need to be to come into the medical healthcare system is just beyond. It's beyond what the brain can even handle. You know, I remember so many days just like beating myself over like getting a B on like an exam or something, because unless I had like a 4.0 and unless I was on honor society, unless I was the president or whatever, I am not going to medical school. And like, I need to go in medical school. because medical school would mean that like I would finally get the respect that I deserve, the love, the label, the identity. People would actually like give a fuck about who I am, because like that makes me something.
Bingo. Yeah, then that's external expectation, yes, and pressures, yes. You know, us both being somatically driven, residual, interested in that. It's like your nervous system only has so much capacity. Yeah. Right? I mean, that's the work of somatics, is to build our capacity for our sensing body. Yes. Right? And when you are on overload, meltdown, frying the motherboard as your brain, forget things that are anxiety producing, which ultimately oftentimes comes down to how are we internalizing that external pressure and perspective on us.
Yeah. And I did not have any outlets at that time. It just wasn't a thing for me back then. I didn't know anything about like needing access, tools, resources. I feel like the mental health space at that time was still taboo compared to how it is now.
Sure.
You know, and so it just wasn't a thing back then, right? Like at that time, everything for me at least was very internalized, right? I wouldn't even really talk to friends about it just because it's like, they just don't get it. They wouldn't understand. They're going through their own shit. I don't necessarily want to be a burden. Like, I have it.
So some of that is cultural conditioning.
Yes, we have to.
Some of that is sociological conditioning. 100%. You know, some of that is, you know, just like the uniqueness of you and your experience.
Yeah.
Through time and space. But yeah, that's a lot. You're turning into a pressure cooker.
Yeah. I mean, the hyper independence, you know, I definitely feel like is a survival pattern that a lot of women hold and carry and develop because of X, Y, and Z things that have happened in their life. And so that was manifesting for me so much at that time. Like, I can do it all. And like, okay, in retrospect, one can do it all, but do you have to do it all?
Thank you for making that. Write that down. Right? And I want to take from this podcast and write it down. You're going to tattoo it somewhere off your body. You'll have to tell us where. But just because I can do it doesn't mean I have to. You'll have to do it. That is empowerment, the ability to have personal choice, the ability to even be aware of the fact that you have choice.
Thank you for saying that, because the next thing I was going to say was that, like, I didn't have any fucking agency at that time. I had no idea what agency was. I didn't know what
agency is like for realtors. They work at real estate agency. What is agency? So anyways, no, I mean, I know what it is. Yeah, but I'm right. The fact that people don't, and agency is that sense of self-governance, right? So the sovereignty, one of our favorite words.
Yeah, I didn't know a goddamn thing about that because I had zero sense of self. Like,
well, you obviously weren't taught to have a sense of self.
I was going to say it was smushed down, you know, it was very to not like use a very like popular word, but it was very like suppressed. And, you know, I felt very oppressed.
Well, but let's societally even look at the messages that are sent, right? Children should be seen, not heard.
Right. Yeah.
Right. It's baked into, threaded into, woven into the fabric of our society that children are the recipients of the rules that are given to them, that are passed down from them. Yes, they are the receiver of the voice that is programming, that is dominant for them.
Yeah.
And that right there automatically suppresses.
That's crazy. So I feel like our children can teach us so much.
Right.
And like, it can be this like mutual experience of like giving and learning and receiving.
Yeah, I saw this TED Talk a long time ago that somebody who I was working with when I was getting certified in NLP, she was saying that you've got to see this TED Talk, and she sent it to us, and gosh, I wish I could remember the name of the kid. If I can, I'm going to put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
But it was this kid, this like really genius kid who I think is on the autistic spectrum, but he did this viral TED Talk about how we need to stop learning and start thinking.
Wow, that is so wild.
And I'm like, let that land. Let that land.
Yes.
Stop learning and start thinking, because it is about, am I being shaped?
Yes.
Right? By my environment, or am I creating the shapes that I want to take that are inherent to me in the world?
Yes. Oh my God. I literally have goosebumps on my arms I love that you said this just now, because I was literally, I was literally talking to one of my clients last night about this idea in like the healing space, the somatic space, the empowerment space, the embodiment space, the trauma space, anything, any space where there's like healing happening, is that we spend so much time studying how to heal, right? But we don't actually take the time to like understand it, experience it, which is why somatics is amazing, and people still don't really understand the power and the magic of somatics. We just don't take that time. And then we wonder why so much of our patterns, our behaviors, our power, our voice, the way we move through the world continues to perpetuate for eons, even though you know what you do.
And it's amazing. It is the reverence for the body, right? Yeah. We're talking about somatics. We're talking about soma. We're talking about the body, right? Yeah. Somatics is about the body.
Yeah.
And like, if you were to try to think your way into, as an example, because you're a woman, if you were to think your way into making a baby, could you do it?
100%.
No. I mean, actually think your way. You can't do it. Your body is a freaking brilliant, it's beyond anything that your mind can comprehend in terms of the genius. Yeah. And while it's making a baby, it's also running your digestive system, and it's pumping your blood and working your lungs and operating your heart and your limbic system and your brain. But just what part of your brain? It's the amygdala, it's the prefrontal cortex. I mean, literally, and I want my toes to wiggle now at the same time. Yeah. It's like, oh my God, I'm sorry. Is there anything more brilliant than the body? No. And the fact that it doesn't get its reverence when it comes to being the one of the most important things we need to be conscious and aware of and integrating into our lives in terms of the quality of our lives. Like, OMG.
Yeah. And I feel like I agree, by the way, 100% of all the things. When we start unlocking the body's innate intelligence and communication system, so many things fall into place, because, and even like from the perspective of, let's say, like consciousness and spirituality, your intuition, you can actually hear like the whispers of your intuition. It no longer needs to like scream at you to do stuff.
Yes.
And going back to those college times, like, I knew what was happening, like somatically, body-wise, intuitively. I knew exactly what I wanted to do, where I needed to go. I knew that I had to leave that relationship. I knew that I needed like better, healthier friends. I knew I needed to be in a different place for me to cultivate a soul-led life, right? Because that's what I wanted. I just wanted a life that felt not easy, but a life that was more at ease, and a life that felt a little bit more peaceful, and a life that was flowing. I wanted to be one of the girls who was passionate about what they're doing and their mission in soul life, but I wasn't in that place, even though I knew what to do. And so I remember having this really vivid moment of deciding what to do. If I wanted to leave, the whole med school situation and go into naturopathic school. And so I guess like traveling back in time a little bit, because of the chronic stress, I actually developed onset adult eczema everywhere. It was very insidious. Like, it started off with a tiny little patch on my left hand. Weeks later, more and more stress, shit lifestyle patterns as well, because I was literally up to my eyeballs in stress, and also up to my eyeballs in terms of like time, energy. I was balancing 2 jobs also. Like, there was just a lot happening.
Hey fam, it's me, Alexis. Quick pause to shout out something that's not just a sponsor. It's my creation, Soul Sway Practice. This is the evolution of fitness. Think of it like microdosing your own neurochemicals, dopamine, serotonin, all the good stuff. No substances required. Soul Sway takes what's dulled and deadened and brings it back to life. It's multi-dimensional self-care, movement, mindfulness, meditation that lets you actually hear yourself again, because our lives are loud, compartmentalized, draining. This is your time to come back online, set to curated and kick-ass soundtracks and cinematic backdrops that help remove the outside noise to tune into what matters most, you. This is your time, your practice, your life. Let's make it yours. with subscription-based classes, on demand, or courses, design your practice to not only fit, but enhance your life. Go to soulswaypractice.com and use code LAMN50 for 50% off your first month or year. You're welcome.
I remember this one morning so vividly. I woke up and I had the worst eczema flare. What started as a small patch on my hand, it spread to my face. It spread to the top of my thighs and all over my belly. And I was so just like distraught. And I think that that in itself was a huge wake-up call, because I had never in my life had like gut issues, never went through antibiotics. Like I was just not that girl. And I actually
Talked about when you say your intuition will whisper to you, your body will whisper to you, or she asked to you. It was a parodic to shout. Yeah, I didn't make it. I usually listen to its intelligence. Yeah, I mean, it's that quote, right? That really famous quote. It's like, if you don't make time for wellness, you know, things will catch up to you, or whatever. I just fucked up that quote. I'm so sorry, guys. But look up that quote. You'll find it somewhere. But yeah, I woke up with all of that all over me, and I made an appointment at the local dermatologist in Ventura. I was living in Ventura, California at the time. And I remember sitting in the lobby. I went in for like 20 minutes, fastest appointment ever. Nice enough woman, like not clearly very knowledgeable, but I left with like a prescription for steroids and like $300 out of my pocket. And I just felt so like violated in a way. You know, I felt kind of neglected because I still didn't understand like what was going on with me. And so that was the catalyst for my naturopathic journey. I love it. It reminds me, it's my life quote, is it Anais Nin quote. And it's when one pretends the entire body revolts. That's my life quote. It binds me every character in our life that actually matters. And it's a guiding principle for me. I'm going to write that down after. Questions is like, it's the full vibration of authenticity in true alignment, like soul to skin. And I think that your body was signaling to you so profoundly because it trusted you, and it knew you'd get it. It knew you had the message, and you did. You heard that loud and clear, and you pivoted.
I needed to. I felt really desperate at that point. Like I literally didn't have a choice, I'll say. That was the only choice.
It's like, isn't it Tony Robbins who says, you know, change, people say, oh, it took me 20 years to change. No, it didn't. It took you one moment. Yeah, he says that it's usually, change is usually a moment of inspiration or desperation.
Correct. And it was desperation. Sure, for sure. 100%.
Totally tracks.
So yeah, that was the catalyst of the naturopathic journey. And so I cleared up my eczema in about 6 weeks. I did like a huge lifestyle overhaul. Again, didn't know that was like the holistic, the naturopathic type of way of like living and lifestyle. It was just like things that I was like looking up what to do, how to heal, how to cure this, blah, blah, blah. Implemented, eczema was gone in 6 weeks. It was like magic. And so I was like, okay, there's something here. And I remember this like aliveness. You know, it's like, I feel like every woman kind of has this kind of like transfixed candle inside her heart. And there are things that we do that like turns on a flame. And then there are things that feel like a dim. This was like a flame.
It's your purpose. It's your calling. It's your mission. It's your telos. It's your path. It's your lie.
Oh my God. Yes, 100%. And I never realized that. I was like, wait, is this what like passion and connection feels like? Is this what like the soul work feels like? Is this what I'm like supposed to be doing? So I kind of ran with it. I was like looking up, you know, nutrition schools. I was looking up like health coaching schools. And then I can't remember how I ended up finding naturopathic med school anymore, but found it willy-nilly, like turned in an application. It was like the last week of turning in applications. I was like, fuck it. Probably not going to happen. It's just so late in the game. It's not going to happen, but I'm going to give it a go and see what happens.
This was new. Graduated college, or are you still in college? And though this was my last year of college. Yeah, it's last year of college. At this point, instead of applying to the Western med school, you're applying to this.
No, I actually applied to Western med school and I got in. Wow. Yeah. So I was kind of in that grace period of, okay, now you've received your acceptance letters. Where do you want to go? Make a choice. Wow. Okay. And so I was like, okay, I'm getting ready to go to med school. Like, yeah, all right, this is it. But like, it just wasn't there. Like something was missing. That feeling, like everybody knows that palpable feeling of like, this isn't right. Something's missing. Sliding doors, right? See, my house is how many people do what's expected of them and go to med school. Yeah. And do the internships and the rotation. Yeah. Right. Like how many people do the residencies and go into practice, and none of it's ever really about what lights them up. 100%. 100%. And it's like a life of silent suffering. Yeah. I know so many doctors who are experiencing that right now, even like doctors who I've gone to naturopathic school with. And so they're making changes. So I think that that's really cool. So it's interesting how we like continue to still wrap our identities around those things and like what we do.
And of course, there are the doctors out there who absolutely, that's what they get. But I love that you had that moment of, that fork in the road. It was, naturally, you made the choice that actually felt aligned for you.
It was scary though, I will say.
I'm sure it was. I want to hear about how terrifying that must have been and what in the end gave you whatever it was that you were able to give yourself to make that choice.
It was really scary because it went against everything that I thought I knew, that I thought I should be doing, but mostly because I didn't want to disappoint my parents.
Sure.
I didn't want to, and also maybe I didn't want to like lose something. I would be afraid maybe you'd regret it.
Correct.
Yeah. Because again, it's like, I feel like part of a survival pattern is like trying to figure out the results of something before you actually know what it is. And with applying the naturopathic school, I didn't know. And I think that was really scary, the non-known portion, the uncertainty of it, because it's like you work so hard towards this one goal, but it feels so out of reach. And then you finally reach that goal. And like, shouldn't you be happy? Should I be happy that like I finally got into med school?
It's interesting that you say that. There's two things to touch on there.
Yeah. The first is, oftentimes we do reach for an external goal. Yeah, the expectation that it will fulfill something in us. And that's not where fulfillment comes from.
Yes.
It's actually isn't even fulfilling pursuing the goal.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? And when and if I get there, the goal may or may not fulfill me, but I'm not putting all my eggs in the basket that it will, because wow, wouldn't that be such a disappointment at the end? And the other piece of this that I think is really important to highlight for people is talking about regret. The fear of regret. Yeah, even more importantly than regret itself. But either way, we're talking about the fear of it or the regret itself in the aftermath, is that regret is just self-punishment.
Yeah,
that's all that it is, 100%, right? Regret is, I am afraid that, like the fear of regret as an example, I am afraid that if I throw these shoes out when I'm cleaning my closet, that there's going to come a time, a year from now, 2 years from now, that I'm going to wish that I hadn't thrown those shoes out.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to do to myself, you idiot. You're such a dirty pair of shoes that you need for this, and you threw them out.
Yeah.
And now you're going to have to go spend money and buy another pair of shoes, and they're not going to be as good as ones you already had.
Yeah.
Like, you loser.
Yeah.
Right? And it is the fear of what we will do to ourselves. Full well knowing that whether we're afraid of regret or we're actually in the regret itself, right?
Yeah.
God, I can't believe I threw out those shoes, right? When you're in it, you idiot to go,
yeah,
no, you're not an idiot. You get the ability to choose in that moment how you're going to treat yourself. Are you going to call yourself an idiot, or are you going to say, it made total sense to throw out those shoes?
Yeah.
I get that you're frustrated.
Yeah. That makes total sense to me, but it doesn't make you an idiot.
Yeah.
And we get to choose how we're going to treat ourselves in this moment. And maybe we could do it with a little compassion, a little kindness.
I love that. And I definitely feel that's like learned and developed over time.
Absolutely. But I was saying it to anybody because you did it. In that moment, you said,
yeah,
I might regret this later, but I was still going to do it. But there are other people out there that are probably relating to your story right now.
Yeah.
And going, wow, I'm at this crossroads, but I don't want to regret the decision that I make. I know she didn't. Yeah, I might.
Yeah.
Right? If I follow it down my pathway of intuition, I might regret it. She did it. Lucky her.
Yeah.
Right? And so just for people that are seeing their story in your story, to give them the permission to say, regret doesn't have to be the driving force. No, it's not, but let fear be in the driver's seat of your decisions. And I'm so glad that you didn't, right? So how did you get there?
You said it. You were like following the path of intuition. Because I will say, just to add on to what you were saying, is that, intuition comes from the heart-centered place, right? It's nothing cognitive. It's not logical. It's not anything technical. It just like is. It exists. It's like this breathing, living organism that is like housed inside of you. Everyone has intuition. It's not meta anymore, but it's also difficult to define. It's just a voice. It's just there. It's just a knowing, right? And so I do feel like intuition comes from a heart-centered place. But then obviously when you're healing, right, learning to discern between your fears and intuition would be a great place to start. But if it feels relatively light, and if it feels like it's a place where it's scary but challenging, go for it. Do that thing. Take that risk. Maybe you'll regret it, but at least you took the risk, right? And so that's what I did. I think I wanted to give myself a chance without knowing that I was giving myself a chance, and I had no idea that I was also exercising my sovereignty and my agency, like we said last time. But yeah, so I sent in an application. And I heard back pretty quickly, had the most amazing conversation with one of like the admin people there. And the process went quickly at that point. Like I had an interview, I went to the school. It was one of those situations where they invite you to the interview, you do your interview, and then you kind of like immerse yourself with the students. Flow state, best day. Everything's working out. All the stars are aligning. Alexis, I cannot tell you, you found your people. I walked in. Oh my God, I'm getting emotional thinking about it right now. I walked in and it just felt like a breath. Yeah, it just felt like home. Like there was just like no pretentiousness. Everyone was so warm, sincere, and just like a funny thing, but like, I'm in my holistic health journey at the time, like healing my eczema. I'm keeping that up. And like everyone has like smoothies on the table. Everyone's having their coffees and their matcha. I'm like, bitch, I am home. Like these are my vibes. And everyone was so welcoming and sincere. And I was like, this is it. This is it. And decision made. I went home terrified to tell my parents about the decision, but I was sitting in my Ventura apartment on the stairs, vividly remembering this, having one hand my med school, my Western medical school letter to go, and then my application to my acceptance letter from Bastyr, the school that I went to. And I was like, what do I do? And I was just like, fuck it. Like I gotta do me. I have to do me. Like I have to do this for me. Like it was more important for me to capitalize on that feeling of like home and being in flow and feeling warm and peaceful rather than continuing the suffering. Because like you said, it's like that, is the journey of fulfilling that goal even worth it? And it was not worth it. Those years in college having stress up to my fucking eyeballs, so much so that I developed an autoimmune disease, was not worth it. I can't imagine what my life would have turned out if I went down that road. Maybe it would have been different, but it's the emotional accounting, right? And out looking at the costs. Yes. It was more important to me because I was feeling really broken, but like pieces of me were getting put back together at that time. And I think there's such an important high note here. Yeah. Which is so often when we're faced with really big decisions,
we are weighing what we want versus what other people want or expect from us.
100%.
And what it takes to bust through, to break down all of the conditioning of wanting to please and wanting to be perfect and wanting to get it right, not misstep, not let anybody down, all of that pressure.
Yeah.
Right? How through all of that, busting all of that down, are you able to stand up? The lone ranger in the room.
Yes.
And at all odds and at all costs, which are often great, as stakes are high, say, I'm going to do me.
Yeah.
Right? It's Joan of Arc getting burned at the ground as a stake.
Yes.
For standing authentically and with full commitment in what she believed and what she knew was her mission.
I had to. So I guess I embodied the archetype of Joan in that moment. But yeah, I did the thing. I spoke to my parents, shaky voice, trembling, turned into a big fight. And I remember leaving my parents' house crying, feeling really unsupported. But, I had to do it regardless. And I knew deep down in my heart that my parents would eventually come around. And they did. So,
see, that's what I was going to say is like after an experience like that, like the worst fear has come true. The explosion happened. Yeah, disappointment is palpable.
yeah.
And how do I continue to commit to this decision? And it was first and foremost, this is really what I want for myself. But in your case, maybe a deep-seated flicker of hope.
Yeah.
That they would come around.
Yeah. And they did. I mean, my parents really did their best with what they had, especially, with classic immigrant stories, in terms of like safety and security. I really do feel like they set me up foundationally to succeed and do whatever it is that I needed to do. And so, like, I had to do it. And they were very... The first few years in being in med school, naturopathic med school, they were very like so hush-hush about it. We didn't really talk about the experience, and when I would talk about it, I would just light up. But they were very, I don't think they were really like interested in it because they were...
I'm curious how you took care of yourself, like moving through that time of them being really disappointed in you continuing to dig into the decision, even if they weren't on board with it. And I say that because, as an example, somebody listening might say, I want to come out to my parents, but I'm afraid that they're going to have disappointment and I don't have a flicker of hope that they'll come around. Like, how do you foster? Like, how did you for yourself? Were you successful in whatever way you were?
Yeah.
Like, being self-supportive and continuing to commit to what in your heart you knew was authentic for you and the right path for you.
I believe 100% that community is a pillar for wholesome healing, health, being able to like regulate and co-regulate with other people. I think moving to San Diego, starting school, finding my people, and being in my shit, being in my flow, helped a lot with that healing because it was almost kind of like filling up my own gas tank.
Sure.
And I was like becoming more and more flexible with my nervous system because my cups, my proverbial cups of like community, lifestyle, relationships, sisterhood, health, like they were all getting filled up. And so when times would come around where there were opportunities to heal with my family, it became easier because all my other systems and all my other cups were filled. So I had more energy and more, I guess, resilience and like attunement to be able to like pour into the situation.
That's so gorgeous.
Yeah.
And now you've taken all these full cups and beyond and nourishing and by ourselves and your loved ones and your inner circle. Yeah. Also bringing this to others in present day circumstances.
Yeah.
So tell me about the yumminess of that, of what you're doing now with people.
I love what I do. I would have never thought that I would be in the trauma space and the somatic space ever.
But your mess becomes your message. I say that every every episode, even though it's not the best, it's beautiful and it's divinely organized, but 100%. Yeah. So yeah, just you get to help people. You get to serve people this delicious nectar. Yes. That you've been able to fill your own cup with.
Yes. It's amazing to kind of see how my life experience informs the work that I do.
Always does.
Yeah. So that's really cool and really wild. But I love what I do. My career kind of started out as, my first year of being in practice, seeing a lot of women with like complex mental health issues, but again, felt a bit like empty, and it felt very like logical and strategic versus something that was really insightful and something that was really deep. I can be very like poetic, I feel like, in my practices and the way that I like teach and support women. And so I was like, I need to go deeper. Like, this stuff is not enough. Like, we're not moving the needle when it comes to complex PTSD, ADHD, anxiety, depression, etc. Like, there has to be more than just lifestyle determinants, childhood trauma, supplements, etc. Like, there has to be more. And then the following year in practice was when I started doing my trauma training and somatic experiencing. And then that blew my mind because I knew about somatics from like the buzzword trendy perspective.
But not from like working with Peter Lee.
Yeah. Yes, but I blew my fucking mind. He is amazing.
Yes, agree.
We love him in the somatic.
We're both in Embody Lab people.
Yes, Embody Lab.
Shout out to Embody Lab.
Yes, thank you, Embody Lab. But yeah, so doing the trauma training and somatic experiencing blew my mind because, again, I knew somatics from like the trendy type of place and the social media lens. And, you would see like people doing the 5 somatic exercises for nervous system regulation, right? And that was like a thing. But I was like, what is this? Like, I need to learn more about this. Like, this is really cool. And like, I wanted to know what went beyond the breath work.
Yes.
And so, long story short, finished all my trainings, all the certifications, and now implementing that with my clinical works, but also bringing in a lot of like the ancestral medicine and like a little bit of mysticism. And so I love to tell people that my work is a blend of pragmatism and magic, because that's just what it is when you unlock.
Same. Yeah, and in different capacities and in some similar capacities. Yeah, but yes, it's different, exactly. But I think that, there is such a rise, and thank God, of this work in the world because it is so needed. And I'm saying, wow. It's hot, but it's also, you want to make sure you're picking the practitioners without walking the walk that are actually really, like we are certified and educated in all these things. And really, honoring that none of us are Buddha sitting on a mountaintop in Mudra pose all day, having it all together. I know I am. No kidding. Speak for yourself. Oh, no, just joking. Just joking. No, I'm just kidding. But we're figuring it out. We're figuring it out. Yeah, we're figuring it out. And so it brings me to the question of like turning forward on the timeline. Like as we look at the future vision, what does it hold? What are you seeing on the horizon line for yourself and for this work?
Oh, man.
And for you as a human being, like all of it, right? Look forward and
girl, I'm a visionary. I got a lot of vision.
Let's go. Yeah, let's go. Maybe just drop some keywords on us.
I have spent a lot of years in my private practice being very private with my clients. I feel like I'm ready to expand my work, my art, my medicine, and my voice to something bigger. I had a dream for a long time to be on stage. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I know it's going to happen. I'm also in this place of wanting to be in person again. I miss being in person so much. I miss like touching my client. That sounds so wrong, by the way. But like, I'm putting my hands.
I need this above her.
Yes. And like that exchange and like of energy and vibes and frequency.
It's all consensual.
It's all consensual. That's it. I would love to tap into kind of like doing things more in person. I think that's kind of like the closest vision that I see.
I love that.
But I would love to just embody my art and my medicine with more ownership than ever. Probably is kind of like the biggest thing that I'm like thinking about and like wanting to move through. And I mean, that's why I moved to LA is try to connect and like, they're up there somewhere.
Well, it's interesting because you said you're this blend of magic and being pragmatic.
Yeah.
And in magic, one of the words and phrases that often gets thrown around for casting a spell is abracadabra. And what that actually translates to is I speak it into existence. I speak it into reality. I speak it into truth.
Stop. I did not know that.
So you're speaking it now. Abracadabra. Here it is. This is what is.
I'm not going to lie about me. I'll fly manifester. So it's going to come true.
Rare declaring. Lord declared. So here comes our final question for the podcast. Okay, it's a mystery question. It was not a rare question. So, as you know, Look at Me Now is about the internal gaze. It is the removal of the external gaze, right? So, if you had mirror and you were gazing in the mirror right now, having a look at me now moment, a moment of self-realization, of self-acknowledgement, of self-validation, saying no matter what you've done or not done, you are worthy of love. Thank you. I love you to yourself. Not a, revenge-oriented look at me now, right? But gosh, I have been so resilient. Gosh, I am so powerful. Gosh, I am. What is it that you want to say to yourself as you gaze in this mirror and have this look at me out?
Wow. Why am I being so moved right now? I'm so moved by that question. Thank you for asking such a gorgeous question. I think what I would say and what I do say to myself is that, I'm worthy and I always have been worthy. And everything that I am doing and everything that I have done is enough. There's nothing more to do. You don't need to be more, do more. You just have to exist as you are. And something that I was thinking about this morning, actually, as I was getting ready and like looking at myself, getting ready for our day to day, was that, stay honest and truthful about your devotion, make the space about love, and everything will fall to place. Like everything will be okay. Thank you. Thank you. Oh my God, I'm so moved. What the heck?
Literally, I've welled up twice. I was not prepared. Oh, here are the people over here. My heart is so open right now. Thank you.
Oh gosh, I love that. Well, thank you, because this is what this space is all about.
Yeah. Where can people find you? Where can they drink in your elixir? How can they find you in the real world?
So, do I do it here?
Yeah, he's right here, right now. Let's go. So, well, primarily, I'm in the show notes too, but okay, beautiful. I was going to say, primarily you can connect with me on Instagram at Dr.Trish Ferrer, and you'll have it in the show notes. It will be in the show notes. Yes, everyone just stalk me there, send me a DM, let me know what you thought about this pod. Oh my gosh. Well, I am eternally grateful to have this IRL moment with you as well. Thank you. And to share your incredible and powerful story with everybody. Thank you for being willing to drop in and go deep. It's beautiful. And to keep it light at the same time. All right, everybody. That's another one in the books.
Join us for Look at Me Now, wherever you listen to podcasts. And be sure to share, like, and subscribe.